Welcome to Housatonic Live. It is Tuesday night, September 28th, 8:10 p.m. This is your host. As usual, you only get one real host, main host on the channel, Mark Kulak, having a little bit of a technical difficulties here this evening, getting the show I'll probably started. Try to reproduce this show later on with some video that's actually being recorded on a Zoom call. We have our recurring guest, Paul G, back on with us tonight with an update from what's been going on out in California and all of the exciting activities out there. And we have two amazing guests, Kent Chamberlain from New Hampshire, a professor of electrical engineering and computer science, doctorate, and Michael Levesque. Hopefully I pronounced that right. And if not, I'm sorry.
You did.
They're both going to be here for just 10 or 15 minutes each. And I'm going to get the assistance of Paul with further introductions. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Thanks, Mark. We really appreciate it. I'm sorry about the video problems tonight, but there is a Zoom recording, so it will eventually become a video. And I think probably it's because I'm wearing a suit tonight, and that's why the whole video thing broke. But I'm out of a couple of important meetings that we need to talk about. But since last time we got together, I got the FCC on the phone for about a good 25, 30 minutes and got them to admit some stuff. And I also have connected into the governor's office, and that's the news I want to share later. But we have a treat to start off with. You know, Kent Chamberlain has done a lot of good work on this field because he essentially went all the way through and became chair of the Department of Engineering at the University of New Hampshire, ran the whole thing for years, and then retired. And as a retired person, that's a good thing. That gives him a little more freedom. And so he stepped in, was picked to be on a commission. And this was a commission that was created by a statute passed in New Hampshire. So Kent, why don't you lead off and tell us a little bit about what that was all about, what your role was, and what some of the next steps are.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Paul. And this was, as you mentioned, it was formed, the commission itself was formed by bipartisan legislation. So in the state of New Hampshire, in order to have a state commission, you have to get both the Democrats and the Republicans to agree in both houses, and then you have to have the governor sign it. Now, we're somewhat of a conservative state, so it was a little bit surprising that we could get the legislature to go ahead with a commission to study something that is generally opposed by Republicans. But they went ahead and did it. They formed the commission, and I can talk more about what the commission entailed. But we met for a year, and then we came up with our conclusions, and our conclusions are not surprising to most of your listeners, and that is that the cell phone radiation is harmful. And whether or not it's 5G or 4G or 3G, it is going to be harmful to you. So just in a nutshell, in an overview, we came up with our conclusions, we wrote the final report, and now we're in the process of writing legislation to enact some of those recommendations.
And the report itself was pretty detailed. It's like a couple of 100 pages for the majority report, something like that. And you had a lot of
390
references.
pages.
Exactly.
But mostly, I don't want to scare anybody away from reading it. Most of it was appendices. And so if you read through perhaps the first 10 pages, it gives you a really good idea of what our findings were.
I have your website up right now, Kevin, Scientists for Wired Technology.
That's
the
me.
URL.
Yeah, that's me. That's my site, but I do have a summary of it right there.
Oh,
and then there's a link to the original right from
Yeah.
the top of that page, right?
Okay.
So something that's maybe worth pointing out is that what formed the commission was, as I just mentioned, legislation, and that was just 6 pages, the legislation itself. And it was the first in the country to declare or come up with a commission to investigate 5G and wireless radiation. So it was a first in the nation type thing, and it was formed with 6 pages of legislation. And I'm mentioning that in case anybody else wants to form their own commission. I imagine most states are a little bit similar in the sense that you need legislation to form a formal commission like the one we had.
Well, we like
So
the people
Dr.
in New Hampshire because it's live free or die state. And we know you guys did a good job. But the people out in Oregon had a similar bill and they didn't really do such a good job.
Well, but a lot of other places I'm being contacted by other states, and they're thinking about implementing their own commission, and they're asking how to go about doing it. and I'm mentioning this 6-page bill, and they're following it to some degree. And of course, each state is unique and it has its own unique politics. And let's hope that they're successful, because I find that it's really effective when you can go in front of a group and not say, here, I'm going to present the results that I've found, but when you say that I'm going to present to you the findings of a formal state commission. That tends to have a little bit more teeth, and I get listened to, I think, a little bit more seriously.
That's good. Mark, you had a question?
Yes, I'm another New Englander. I'm down in central Massachusetts. And I was curious what the interest in temperature was from the other states of New England, which tend to have a more progressive, although very tech savvy at the same time, interest.
Well, we're pretty high tech ourselves, but
Yes.
They are having troubles in Massachusetts, and you might even want to bring on CC Doucette to talk about some of that legislation. So they've had legislation in the hopper for a lot longer than we have in New Hampshire. It's tough getting people to work on it. When you look at the lobbying money behind telecom, it's about $100 million a year. They have an army, literally over 500 lobbyists. And so when there's some threat to their power, they send their lobbyists out and send the money out. And they have $30 million a year or something close to that in campaign contributions. So as soon as legislation like the type we had in New Hampshire gets in the process, in the hopper, then a lot of money flows to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. I hate to say that, but that seems to be the case. That's my observation. Now, there are freshly starting to look at legislation to form a commission in Maine. So I was contacted within the week for somebody who's thinking about doing that. So who knows? Maybe it's going to be happening in more places. I suspect that it will.
I think that's great. So what is the step for the legislation that you're going to write to enact some of these recommendations? What do you have to do for that?
So it's a tightrope act, as you can imagine. You want to write legislation that's actually going to accomplish something, but at the same time, you want to write something that's going to get passed. And we are already hearing that the telecom industry is lining up against us, and they're going to fight it tooth and nail. And so one of the things that we are proposing is a setback. And it's going to be the 500 meters that has been found by a lot of groups to be an appropriate setback, 1,640 feet. And there are a lot of technical reasons. I have a whole presentation prepared to explain why that's a legitimate setback. So that's one of the things we're going to ask for. We are putting into it a register. So for anybody that's electrosensitive, they can go onto the site and talk about, their location and give a lot of the details about their electrosensitivity. And the reason for this is to give people a sense of how big the problem of electrosensitivity is, because it's kind of an unknown. We hear about it, but we don't have much quantitative about it. And so those are the two biggies in the bill that we're writing. And so it's right now in legal. So in other words, we write what we want to have, and then it goes through legal, and legal says, no, you can or can't do this. So they study it very thoroughly. They make adjustments, they send it back to us, and then we see, whether or not we can live with the suggestions that they've made.
Hey, I have one big suggestion for you, and this is it. If you're looking to have a registry, don't just register the people that come forward and say they're having problems. Also, make sure you have a full registry of where all the cell phone towers are, because most of them don't ever get recorded in a database somewhere.
Well, in fact, that is what we're looking at. So a person's going to put in where they live, and there is a go find my antenna and help me on this, to the site. But you go to that site, you put in your address, and it tells you what the nearby antennas are. So we're hoping to use that information so that when people put in their information in this registry, we'll be able to identify where that antenna is.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not very complete, and I'll tell you why.
Okay, we'll talk offline about that.
Well, but everybody should know too. Antennasearch.com is essentially voluntary. And if you're lower than 200 feet from the FCC, you don't have to be in any database. And many times they never, ever show up. And that's why if you put it in your law, see, we have a General Order 159 in California. where they do have to report to our Utilities Commission every year where they've put their towers. Now, this is a protected list that I found out about 2 months ago. So I'm getting it on myself through a California Public Records Act request, and I'm going to publish it. Okay. But this can happen through legislation. So you may as well throw it in there.
All right. Well, when it comes back and we're trying to refine it, we can get back to you.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how long this process is going to take. Just something just to throw out to give people a sense of timing. The original problem was identified back in the winter of 2018 when we had an electrosensitive individual in the state concerned about the future and the rollout of 5G and other wireless facilities. And so, forming the commission, getting the commission to act as it did, coming up with the legislation that we're writing right now. So nothing will really be done on this until the fall of 2022. So we're talking about a 4-year span of time. And fortunately, in this case, it appears that the person who started the process can wait that long, but I'm not sure everybody can.
I'm having some fun right now showing the audience antennasearch.com. Just rural towns versus Boston. And I realize it's incomplete, but it's quite interesting and fascinating nonetheless.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of them, but I mean, it's not all of them. That's the problem. So you sit there and you go, oh, there's so many, it must be everything. No. So one of the key things, though, is that every town in New Hampshire, because you guys, I don't think you're saddled with a bad state bill. See, there are about 30 states that have a terrible state bill saying, oh, local towns that have no control over the public rights of way anymore, so they can come in and just run you over. That's Arizona, for example, and other states that are bad like that. You can list them off, but I believe New Hampshire and California, for now, doesn't. So we were able to take care of it at the local level. So your towns in New Hampshire can do something about it. They can do what our city did, which was nothing in residential zones. That gives you the setback you need.
Well, we're working on things like setbacks for schools and hospitals and the like. It seems like, we're pretty much separated. We don't have some cohesive state policy to deal with. And that's one reason we want to move forward with legislation. And let's face it, if we can get that 300-meter or 500-meter setback, that will go a long way. But right now, just states or the individual municipalities are trying to work it out on their own. So we're not there yet. We had a good head start, and maybe we can do something with it.
Well, bless you for all the good that you've been doing. We appreciate the commission doing something, looking at all that science and making some decent recommendations. We like it.
Great.
So I know, Kent, you're real busy, and I think that's a good overview of kind of where things are in New Hampshire and some other states. Mark, are there any burning questions for Kent, or can we give him his evening back?
I think we can give him his evening back. Raina asked one question. What was the exclusion? 700 feet from something?
It's a setback, and we're saying that you can't have a tower within 500 meters of structures, places where people live.
500 meters, okay.
Yeah, and so, like I said, I've got a complete presentation on why that's a good number, but we can just leave it there now. And what we're doing is we're preparing for testimony that we're sure to get from the people who are going to be arrayed against us. So this should be interesting.
Yeah. So the point is, it's not picked out of the blue and out of the air. It's not a guess.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all.
It's based on the scientific results of how far away do you need to be in order for bad symptoms and other things not to happen. And so what does this do? It just wipes out the whole small cell agenda, because you can't get a small cell if you're 1,500, 1,600 feet away. You have to look at a different kind of tower. All right.
That's right.
And so, that's the right way to think about it. The whole small cell agenda to go in front of your house is just a terrible idea.
It has been from the start.
Right.
Paul has convinced all of us of that. So, and the whole audience. So thank you.
But hopefully the governor. That's what we really have to
care about.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for all your help, Kent. We really appreciate it.
Most welcome.
Thank you so much. God bless.
All right. Take care, man. Michael Levesque, you're up next. You and I met in San Francisco at the San Francisco Board of Appeals. And you and I were just citizens going in there to try to help out. We didn't know each other, but we were helping the same people. We helped Cheryl with her appeal, Cheryl Hogan, and went in some other people who were surprised to have us testify on their behalf. But we were trying to win some of those appeals. Tell us a little bit about your new venture. What's going on with your website?
Well, first of all, thank you, Paul, for having me be here. And also, I want to thank Mark. And my new venture is something that I think I've been thinking about for a long time.
I'm gonna show the Health Freedom Party website, and if there's any other websites you'd like me to go through while you're presenting, just let me know, please.
Okay, so that's good. So after my experience with the Board of Appeals, which is local, I mean, if you can't have an effect locally, you have to really start thinking like, what's going on here? What is going on? And what we found, and you know, Paul, what really happened to us is that behind closed doors, all of a sudden, the Board of Supervisors decided that they were going to give carte blanche to the wireless companies to put up antennas.
Yeah, but how close? How close to these houses are they?
Yeah, how close are they? They're probably way too close.
They're 6 to 12 feet from people's homes.
Yes.
And these homes in San Francisco are 3-4 stories tall, so it's right outside your bedroom window.
Exactly.
That's really what's going on.
Yeah, and
It's a disaster.
And they're also laying down stuff underground and above ground. It just seemed to me that
You cut and ran. You got out of there.
Oh yeah. I could no longer stay there because I am electrically sensitive. I mean, but nevertheless, I'm now living in an area that's unincorporated and that is much less.
It's about 60 miles from San Francisco, right? Something like north of San Francisco.
It's north and it's west, so it's about a couple hundred miles.
Oh, a couple hundred. Okay, didn't realize that far.
Yeah.
Michael, is there anything you could share about your time, your experience in discovering your sensitivity?
I have a story on. I also sell a product, and so I wasn't trying to promote my product by going here, but my story is on my website, which is rayguardprotect.com. And that story involves the fact that I went to CPMC, University of California Medical Center. I've been to 3 other doctors. I had Crohn's disease. I lost 40 pounds. People who saw me, I'm a retailer. I have 5 stores. They thought I was going to die. I thought I was ready to. And they felt by now I had cancer. And somebody found me and said, here, try this thing. And I did. And after 6 weeks, my diarrhea stopped. Other doctors that I had talked to said like, wow, this is incredible, keep doing it and so forth. So I was doing okay, but it keeps increasing the levels within the city. And so it got so bad that finally especially once, see, this is what's so crazy. Once the pandemic was declared and they start locking everybody down, the street work in San Francisco was nonstop, putting in the 5G and all the other things that were going on. And so I escaped, and I'm able to maintain my health, and actually my health keeps improving. That virtually every person is affected by their exposure to electromagnetic radiation. There is no doubt. And the science now is so deep that it's even gone into the whole idea that how hydrogen molecules are affected in terms of their electrical energy. How water is affected. They realize now there's 4 forms of water. There's liquid, solid, steam, and gel. And the gel is found inside the mitochondria. In the mitochondria gel, the gel is highly affected by electromagnetic radiation. So as soon as those keep going up higher and higher, what we have is the FCC that is controlled, as well as the government controlled, by the wireless industry. We have a pharmaceutical health industry or medicine industry that's controlled by pharmaceutical drugs. As far as the government's concerned, what do you do for COVID-19? Well, of course, you go to a pharmaceutical drug. So my purpose is to create a political party, the Health Freedom Party, that looks directly at the issues of politics. It's no longer a scientific question. there's no doubt scientifically all the harm that is being done as a result of pharmaceuticals and of chemical poisonings, as well as electromagnetic radiation. CDC, back in 1994, said cell phones were dangerous for your health and that they're related to cancer.
Oh, the CDC made a statement about that in the past?
Oh, yes.
Wow, I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
Yeah. Well, in 1995, December of 1995.
Well, look, the Environmental Protection Agency was all over this too at that time. Norbert Hankin was there, the EPA had a good job, and it was well respected. And they were looking at this for real, and they were trying to come up with reasonable guidelines. And look, the wires industry thought they had this in the bag, and they took the guy, George Carlo, they hired him to go out and do a bunch of research to bring it back to say, no problem. But Carlo came back with research that said, hey guys, there's a problem. That's when they went into high gear, right then. That was like the late 80s.
Of Technology Assessment was defunded.
Right.
Which was a horrible thing to have happened, because now the legislators don't know anything. And the very next year, 1996, the Telecommunications Act is passed, and the CDC, the FDA, the EPA, all of those organizations that already recognize it as a dramatic pollutant. Verizon, everybody knows it's a pollutant. Pollutants cause damage.
Well, and the insurance industry knows. That's the important part.
The insurance company won't even touch them.
Right. So they wrote this off 10 years ago. Okay. There's enough evidence 10 years ago to not cover any claims and any general liability policies. So the point is smart money.
Longer than that.
Right.
Longer than that. Yeah.
So it's crazy, right?
It is totally crazy.
So what can we do with the party? How do we join the party?
Okay.
What do we do?
Okay. The political party is that you sign up.
Right.
You sign up, you become a part of the political party. Your aim is to be educated, to have knowledge, but at the same time, you're going to start picking who's going to be elected and not elected based upon what their relationship is to the pharmaceutical lobbyists and to the wireless.
Well, I think the difference is this: you can actually act as an organization to educate, to keep your 501c3 in place, and you can act as an individual separate from the organization in order to be able to make a statement and or a contribution or something else. You just have to make sure that the two money streams are separate.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And then that would be a solution.
Yeah. Well, I signed up just the other day. It was the form, really easy form there. Right. Yeah. So which page should they go to sign up?
It is a membership page.
Okay.
Let me see if I can bring it
healthfreedomparty.org. Is that it?
Yeah. Oh, members, right there, members. And it says sign up to be a member, receive notifications, be an active voice, lend your talents, become a political force. People don't realize you should go directly to the top whenever you're having these problems. The problems that we're facing, the people who are being harmed, everything, they should be writing and being at the doorstep of their legislator. They have to realize that they have the power because they are a citizen. Actually, the United States government is a corporation. It's registered as a corporation. We're stockholders, and they're doing a really bad job of handling our stock. I mean, our indebtedness and how we spend our money for medicine, bringing us basically into bankruptcy. It's ridiculous. And there's so many other options that are available. So within the website, I've already listed just a few of the things that need to be done right away. One of them is passing a new Health Medical Freedom Amendment, which is at themedicalfreedomamendment.org. That is an amendment to the Constitution. It's the 28th Amendment. And the goal of that amendment is to give medical freedom.
Right. We need freedom. I agree with you 100%. Freedom. Now, the cool thing is when you sign up, doesn't cost you anything, right?
There's no...
Good. It's free. Yes. Free is good. And the other thing is you are really careful with everyone's data, right? You're being very careful. You're not selling it. You're not doing anything with it if they do sign up.
Absolutely not. That has to be the idea is to only put out research and information that people can see and read and will help educate them. Our goals are to protect the health freedom of all individuals within society. We're not a for-profit organization. We are not a non-profit organization. We have no dues, no membership fees, except no donations or gifts.
That's great.
Organized, educated, working members, we seek to become a political force. When I say a political force, I mean one that is feared, that provides truth, opinion, and actions, that seeks health freedom of the individual within society. We are a result of the extreme frustration of representatives and agencies that ignore the existence of certain facts due to greed, ignorance, and pride, making decisions that have produced the sickest nation and exploitation of health in the world. We are composed of every political party and exert our influence within those areas we know. So this is not Democrat, this isn't Republican, this isn't Green, this is people.
Yeah, sounds like We the People Party. I like this.
And we are here because we are together, knowing most representatives are not acting in our interest on specific issues. And we seek to reveal the falsehoods, the misdirections, and financial subordination of all political candidates.
Well, sounds like good goals. I have another name for you, Dr. Rima Lebo. Are you familiar with her? We're working with her in Arizona right now.
Oh, I think I do. Yeah.
She'd be all over this. I should connect the two of you together. That's for sure.
Oh, I'm sure that would be wonderful. I appreciate that.
So, Mark, anything coming over the wires? Any questions?
Yeah, a few questions. One was there any interest or involvement with the EPA in your early concerns, or at the current time with respect to?
Well, okay, so they're just wondering, what is the EPA's role here about electromagnetic radiation? Did they play a role?
If any, maybe they just punted. That would be
well. They didn't
be expected.
They didn't punt. It wasn't their choice. Okay. From the powers on high, what happened was that the wireless industry rolled into town and said, we got to whitewash this thing. And so we're a little worried about those guys over at the EPA coming up with some kind of guideline we can't live with. So we're going to defund those people and fire them all. And they did. They took it away from the EPA. And then as part of the whole 1996 Telecommunications Act was a switch up to say, well, the Environmental Protection Agency had looks at science and information and has to make a good determination. Well, give it to the FCC. They don't have to do any of that.
Yes.
All the FCC had to do was pick a guideline that existed. So it was a way to get around the EPA. That's what they did.
And they gave all measurement to the engineers.
Correct.
And they forgot about biological systems. So as far as they're concerned, your biology
they're hiding
everything.
Well, they know that they had to bury it all. And this is how they buried it.
And they threatened them with lawsuits in San Francisco. Yeah, they didn't go forward with it. And they are the only city in the whole country that has a precautionary principle that actually requires them to move forward properly. And they didn't do it. So they're illegally, they did illegal action.
That's a big deal. When you take a look at Europeans' precautionary principle and the way that it's written over at the EU, and you compare it to the one in San Francisco, the one in San Francisco is written better. There's a better foundation there.
Yes.
And as a result, when you actually have a cell phone tower application in San Francisco, it has to be signed off by not only the Department of Public Works, it has to be signed off by the Department of Health also. And so that's why we went into Dr. Tomas Aragon to actually have him update this whole thing, because with all of the science that has come out in this August 13th ruling by the DC Circuit Court of Appeals against the lawsuit that was argued in January, that was Environmental Health Trust, Children's Health Defense versus the FCC over their microwave radiation guideline. They put in, good old Daphne Tackover, put into the record 11,000 pages of evidence.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, this is in the record now at the FCC. Everybody can use it. Everybody can just grab that information and put it into the record at your town. That's it. It's in the public record. Then you say to your town, excuse me, if this is all for real and it's happening and it's already been ruled upon, what are you going to do to protect us now? Because this guideline you can't have behind anymore. There is no such thing anymore that says that it's okay. It's not okay. And this was decided on what big day is that? That's Broadband Freedom Day. That's the day we got out from underneath wireless broadband tyranny. So we're going to declare that an Independence Day, Broadband Independence Day, August 13th every year. And it started on August 13th of 2021. It's a big day. So hopefully we can feature that on your website, Michael. That'd be a good thing.
Of course. No, I think it should be featured.
Okay.
And hopefully we do something next year, Paul, around that time to celebrate.
Well,
let's not let it pass up.
We're going to parade from Southborough, Massachusetts to either Providence or Boston, whichever's closer.
I love that.
Parades are good.
Yeah, and we'll put Mark up there on a float somewhere.
All
right, Michael, do you have any
pretty strong float?
Well, you're good with construction. You can build a good float, can't you?
I can, yes.
Yes,
People
good.
who are involved in it now are giving me a lot of support, tremendous amount of support. I talked to Scott Tips, for example, and he just said, "Oh yeah, I would personally support this 100%."
Well, Rima's got a following of like 400,000 people, so you want to get this through her. Go on her program.
Yeah, maybe you can send me her.
I will. She's the bomb. We're actually gonna move. She's got one of these small cells going in front of her house. That's how she woke up. And I had at first didn't know who she was, but she's been in the health freedom movement for 30 years. So this is right up her alley.
Dietary Supplement Health Education Act, and it was supposed to free up everything. Well, yeah, but the FDA has a turnstile style, just like the FCC.
Okay,
great organizations.
Well, we appreciate you hanging on and giving us a little bit of your time this evening, but we were going to probably move into what the California update is and let these poor people go home because it's just an audio podcast for them right now, right? Nothing visual?
Yep, can't get any of the visuals. I've been showing the websites. I did show Health Freedom Party. I did show the, was it Ray Guard? I did put up that URL and show the audience that.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I just can't show the video of all my handsome guests tonight, which stinks. But
that's okay.
Next
we'll get you a video and we'll send it over. We'll edit and do the whole thing for you. No worries. Because we know you work hard, Mark. We got to at least help you out once in a while.
Thank you, Mark, very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story and spending your time with us.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Take care, Michael.
Okay.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right. So, Mark, I want you to go to one more page now. I want you to go to wirecalifornia.org/Newsom, NEWSOM. Go there right now. And what you're going to see is our appeal to Governor Newsom. Well, why is that? Because these legislators voted through these 3 bad bills and they made it through both houses. So even though they had to go back and forth between the houses because there were amendments, they were all in the box and they voted it through. Wire California, there's no D, just WIRE California.org/Newsom. And what you see there is our address directly to Governor Newsom from September 18th. And I had a big week that week because I on September 16th talked to the FCC. And then on September 18th, I got all these people together to come on and we did a little Zoom call like this. To pretty much just have an address to go directly to Governor Newsom. Even if you just listen for the first 5 or 6 minutes, you'll get the story. But if you go all the way to the end and you hear our closer, Dr. Cheryl Scheuer, you will be convinced. She's good. And so I'm suggesting that everybody watch that video. You don't have to show it or play it on the show today. But below that are just a little bit of a summary of what these 3 bills are doing and why it's not consistent with the current governor's plans, which is why we're hopeful for a veto. Because he actually put a stake in the ground and he actually passed a bill that put $6 billion on the table. Now, I'm sure a lot of this is from federal money. If you look at California right now, believe it or not, we have an $80 billion surplus in our state budget.
How
could that be?
I have to ask, is it just like a stimulus money, or did so many people leave the state that all those unfunded liabilities are no longer a problem? What's going on?
There is an agenda, and that agenda needs to be executed in California. So give them a bunch of money to get it done. That's coming from the feds. Okay.
Sean wants that link. So that is just wirecalifornia.org/Newsom. I'm going to copy it and put it into the chat for Sean.
Okay.
Sean's a great listener, always here, very
good.
religiously. Thank you.
And what that does is it summarizes kind of what our whole pitch was throughout the summer, because we recognize that Governor Newsom is a tall, handsome guy with lots of hair gel. But what he does also has is he's dyslexic and he doesn't read things. So he depends very much on oral briefings, and he takes careful handwritten notes of all meetings so that he can remember it better and process it better. That's kind of how he works around it. And, Cheryl Scheuer, who was our closer, also a dyslexic, but she got a PhD.
As a California resident yourself, did he seem stressed at all at the time? Does he look or seem relieved right now? Do you think the way anything the government in the state is going to change as a result of any of this, or?
He seems very relieved, and yes, he was very stressed in early July, leading into early August, because the polls were coming out, and it wasn't showing that he was a shoo-in at that point. And so, that's when we had 46 candidates, not a clear front runner, and people weren't happy with how he was handling the pandemic. And so it looked like it could possibly go south. The numbers were weird. I mean, look at this. If you are the sitting governor and you get 49.5% of the vote, you're out. All right. You had to get just over 50% to stay in. So you could be 49.5% and you're out. And then the guy who got 10 or 12% of the 46 candidates would be in. And so, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But I mean, at the end of the day, what happened was that Larry Elder was basically anointed somehow as a front runner by the media. And that gave Newsom a foil. All right. So he could actually attack Elder as if he were Trump. So look, at the end of the day, does it necessarily benefit California to change governors midstream in the third year of a 4-year term? No, not really. We will put him through the whole ringer next year. He's going to have to run as a governor against any candidate that wants to come forward. Governor Newsom was the mayor of San Francisco. You have to understand, he grew up in Marin County, which is just north of San Francisco. And from mayor of San Francisco, he then became lieutenant governor under Governor Jerry Brown. And he hung out there for about 8 years, because that was Brown's second term, right?
He must have been really young.
Well,
I don't know how old Newsom is. It's hard to tell with all of the hair product, but he looks relatively young.
He fits the bill. He's tall, he's strong, he's athletic, he's got young kids, but he's in his 50s.
Okay.
You have to understand that, he's just well preserved, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little plastic surgery here, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, he's a decent guy. In San Francisco, they passed one of the bills called the Right to Know bill about cell phones. And it was just simple. It was like, wait a minute, you're saying in your little pamphlet in your book that you got to hold this phone some distance away from your head. Otherwise, you're going to exceed the guideline. We should at least let people know as they buy the phone that there might be a problem with this product. And just put it right up there, right on the counter. Well, the industry fought that tooth and nail. All right. So even though it passed in San Francisco, they came in and said, we're going to cancel all our trade shows unless you get rid of this legislation. So Newsom was already gone. He was already out of the mayorship at that point. And the next mayor, Ed Lee, just caved to the commercial interest, and he basically just got rid of the bill. But they eventually took that bill over to Berkeley, passed it in Berkeley, and now you do walk into Berkeley and you have these signs. And the industry fought that all the way up and tried to get into the Supreme Court as a First Amendment case. It's against their First Amendment rights to print the warning that's in their manual and put it on the counter. Yeah, that was the argument. So the Supreme Court didn't take it.
What you're trying to bring awareness to here, and the legislation that you're trying to pass, really shouldn't be a partisan issue. It's, whether or not someone, whatever position someone may have on, let's say, healthcare or, whatever kind of all the millions of other issues. This should not be partisan. And okay, so Newsom is still governor, and you have to work with the people who are elected.
In fact, we know some of his staff from 4 years ago, so we're using some of that right now. We talked to one of the fundraisers for Newsom on Monday, And so the two things I want to cover, because it won't go very long tonight, but is, whatever we're doing currently with the governor's office. And the second is what happened at the FCC. You should know about that too. Okay. But we'll take them in that order. All right. So yeah, we're in touch with the governor's office. We have people within our organization who are wealthy and who would be happy to contribute to the governor's campaign for 2022. And so we were having some discussions, and when you become a significant contributor, often that can lead to some kind of introductory call with the governor or at least his senior staff. And so we're hoping to get that kind of conversation going real soon. Now, we had a good first call with these people last week and had a second call on Monday. And now we followed up with the video. So we'll see what happens. But it'd be great to be able to be introduced either by Zoom or in person if necessary, to have a little sit down and at least give these points across. Now, the other good strategy, and it's what I followed last time, was pay attention to where the governor shows up. Today, in Alameda, California, which is about 35 miles from me, at 10:30 a.m., he stood outside and he basically gave a little speech about the kind of housing, affordable housing bills that they are passing in California this year, 27 of them. And so the idea is to, gather all the legislators together, have a little PR event. But hey, if you show up at those things and you're just in the right place at the right time and you get a chance to talk to somebody, it can make a difference. And so I will be doing that. I will be figuring out where he's going, and I will go too. So someone who's so singularly focused as I am, why not? I mean, it worked 4 years ago. I'll play the card again. I'm not going to stalk the guy. I'm not doing anything wrong. These things are open events. It's not private. This is all
no. And look, regardless of who won, you still have to do all this work.
Sure.
Just because if someone else got into office, let's just say it was Larry Elder. I'm not saying that would have been better or not. But I mean, you know how this works. Everyone fights each other, and then their person, let's just say, gets into office, and then nothing happens. You still needed to do all the work.
Well, of course, no. So look.
So I'm trying to provide trying to tell people, stay cool, stay constructive, keep busy. It's not all about who wins. You still have to do the work either way, and be productive. And I'm thanking you for that, and I'm calling that out.
Yeah, no problem. For two things I want to clarify. Number one, no matter what happened with this recall election, it wouldn't have been decided, at least for a final count, until October 22nd, which means that the session ends October 15. So he was responsible for every single bill this session, no matter what the outcome of the election. All right. Now that he's kind of won the recall election, it's a little bit more of a mandate for him to continue in the direction that he's currently going in. This is his third year in office. So, I mean, this is his third set of bills that he's signing. So he has a particular direction that he's taking everybody in. And you can agree or not agree with the particular direction. So, I mean, that's perfectly fine. So what I want to get across to your audience and to everybody I can is a comment that I heard some current congressman make, and it was great. He had some kind of platoon in Afghanistan, and it was particularly diverse. I mean, you had Native American people and Indian and European, and there were Jews and there were Christians and there were blacks and there was everybody was in this thing, right? And he said, you know what? When we worked together, we had no hyphenated Americans. You were not an African American. You were not an Asian American. You were not. You were an American. And I think that's the message here. Okay. We are so much more in common than we give ourselves credit for. How many people don't want to raise their family well and give them the best opportunity? Few, very few. So the majority of the people on the right and the left pretty much share that value. Okay. How many people want these people to represent you and not lie to you? Well, everybody. Okay. There's a lot more we agree on than the few issues that we decide to fight about. Well, why are we fighting about those few issues? Because we're being set up. That's the whole point. They're feeding you a narrative so you square off against your neighbor and you fight your neighbor. Hey, that's exactly what we did with the vaccine here, or with the jab, right? Some people did, some people didn't. Oh, let's set these two groups against each other. Come on.
And that's exactly what has happened. It's ugly, and people are fighting each other, and people are living in fear. And people that when they're in fear, they're very easy to manipulate.
Well, that's very the whole point.
Easy to get scared animals to do what you want them to do.
Yes, but that's it. So get a clue to the game and just sit there and go, guess what? Medical freedom cuts both ways. If
Yes.
you have done your research and want to have a jab, more power to you. You went ahead and did the research and you made a decision for yourself. I will respect that as a private medical choice. Great. If you did the other thing, if you did your research and decided not to have a jab, I will also respect your private medical decision. And I won't, have a point of view on it or have to tell you that you're wrong or bad or otherwise. That's the whole point here. These are private medical decisions. Everyone has a right to make it, either being well-informed or not well-informed. That is your right as well.
Amen.
Everything's cool until you talk about children. Now we got a problem because the people in charge should be acting in the best interest of these children. And many of them are not. And so that's where you have to dig in a little bit harder. And look, I think Jonathan Cooey has pretty much stated it very, very clearly in his stuff. And I really appreciate you talking to him and bringing him on your show, because I think he's really got some of the best stuff going. So all I'm saying to you is that everybody should look at your neighbor as somebody to love and support and be okay with. And it's all right to have differences of opinion. No worries. You don't have to go and fight about it. You don't have to go to the death. It's okay to say, you're my neighbor. You're paying taxes. I'm paying taxes. We live next to each other. You take care of your house. I take care of my house. I'm so happy you're here. It's okay for us to disagree about something. No worries. And if we do that, we'll make a lot more progress. Okay. So now that I've kind of done the governor thing and we got some good plans with them, who knows which way it's going to go? It's a dicey couple of weeks here. So we're going to do everything we can over the next 2 weeks to make it work, but who knows? Now, the FCC, what happened there? Oh, man, these people are on the run. These people are in trouble because what they did.
This is where Paul gets warmed up. We love this part.
Well, I hope you entitled the show right. It should be 1, 2, 3, how to knock out the FCC, because that's what we're going to do here. Okay. These people have no answers for, well, let's talk about this whole thing that happened on August 13, where your guideline, you were trying to extend it beyond 6,000 megahertz to apply to everything, and you were trying to increase your power 20 times, has just been remanded and sent back to you, which means it's been rejected, which means you got nowhere to go. So if you got no guideline for any of these quote unquote small cells that are going to use the high millimeter wave frequencies that are supposed to go everywhere, but there's no guideline, you got nowhere to go until you do your environmental work. You've been told twice to do environmental work, once in 2019, once in 2021. What's your response? Company line, company line, company line. Oh, yes, let me tell you some more. Company line. Oh, all right, let me ask you another question. Da, 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 da. Oh, more company line, company line, company line. We got almost nothing out of them other than this. This is a good one. Exactly why did this all happen? I had a complaint in for 3 small cells, so-called small cells in downtown Sonoma. And so each one of them violated an FCC rule. And so I said, I need you to enforce this rule. So will you please do it? February 5th of 2020 is when I put the complaint in. October of 2020, we had a discussion with them and they said, well, we're still looking at it. And I go, well, what do I tell the town? I mean, because they're about to vote on this thing tonight. What should I say? And so what we ended up figuring out was, well, the town has a freedom whether to enforce or not enforce the National Environmental Policy Act. However, if an environmental assessment is required by rule, then they can't build it until the environmental assessment is complete. I said, okay, great. That's what I'll tell them. And I did. So what happens? 5-6 months pass. The company says, yeah, we're not interested in building those towers anymore. That essentially ends my complaint in some way. And they cancel my complaint without ruling. And I went right back in the door and I said, excuse me, you can't do that. I'm one of these intellectually honest kind of guys. I mean, you got to at least answer the question of what does the rule mean and does it apply in this case before you make any other decision based on some wireless industry's desire, because they could come back and renew those applications next week. Oh, well, if they do that, they'll have to notify you and notify us. I go, that's not good enough. You're going to have to actually give me an answer. And so
someone in the chat asks, downtown Sonoma?
Yeah, downtown Sonoma. Yeah, there were 3 of them. They were all in the business district, but they were like literally 25 feet in one case and maybe 75 feet from my house in another case. So, I mean, they were really close. What I'm telling you is that the FCC then went ahead and changed the rule that I was citing for my complaint. What did they do? They removed a whole table. There was like a long table and they explained everything. And, you know, towers of this size had to have things like that. And towers of that side took it all out. Just totally simplified the rule. And I said, wait a minute, when did all this happen? And when was this actually now effective? And I got the date out of them. Here it is, May 3rd, 2021. The changing of the rules is effective on May 3rd of 2021, which means the following. For every single cell tower that went in before May 3rd of 2021, the rule that I cited applies. If they have not done proper NEPA review following that rule, then you can challenge that tower, whether it's been built or not. And you can go one step further. You can challenge the company's license. Their license is dependent upon them doing proper national environmental policy review. I got that all out of the FCC. Every single tower that qualifies for that particular rule. What's that rule that I've been telling you about? It was a rule that said if the lower edge of the antenna is less than 10 meters from the ground, that's about 33 feet, 8 inches, and outputs more of 1,000 watts of effective radiated power, which they all do, then by rule, they must go through an environmental assessment, which is an expensive thing to do. So you can force them to do the environmental assessment. And if they put it in without the environmental assessment, they broke NEPA. They broke the law. Well, guess what? You can shut down a tower. You can go after, not just shut down a tower, you could take away their license for that frequency. Oh, what frequencies are on that tower? Cool. Well, you had to do this in order for your license. You didn't do it. We're going to take away your license for this geography because you failed to follow the law. Now you're successful in a couple of those, things are going to change. But my point is a lot of towers went in over the last 3 years. And so if you don't like them and you want to get rid of them, this is a good way to do it. So this is all on the NEPA page. So if you go to ourtownourchoice.org/NEPA, read it all up. I'm updating those pages with this call, so you know exactly what we learned. But this is good stuff.
Ourchoice.org/NEPA.
NEPA. And you'll see Garnett Hanley. She's the chief of the department. I spoke to her back in October of 2020, and also again on September 16th of 2021. She was on both calls.
NEPA Strategies 101.
Yeah.
Is this a short video here?
Well, it's not so short. I'm never very short. But it's good. So anyway, The point is that I do give you a little cell tower college there, and then you can actually go further down below, and you'll see that the FCC themselves are presenting their quote unquote annual tower siting training. And yet there has been no annual training since 2018. They didn't do it in 2019. They didn't do it in 2020, and they haven't done it in 2021. What's the FCC doing? Falling apart. Because
nicely documented, my friend. Yeah. Nice.
So I'm just telling you.
Minute to minute. I love it. I love detail.
We want to knock out the FCC. That's what we want to do. And we want to get a fifth commissioner in. What the hell? We are in September of 2021, and we still only have 4 of 5 FCC commissioners? What are we doing? Why are we dragging our feet like this? We need a 5th one. We need to get another one in there. So we're going to run.
Are there 5 seats, or is that an increase in the number of commissioners?
No, it should be 5.
Okay.
See, every administration, like for example, if you're a Republican administration, then you basically get 3 commissioners for Republican and 2 for Democrat. And if you're in a Democratic administration, it should be 3 Democrat and 2 Republican. Well, we don't have a real chair. We have an acting chair right now. Jessica Rosenworcel is the acting chair, but she's not been recognized as the full chair. And so either we get a real chair in there, which is on the Democrat side, that'll round it out, or you make her the real chair and you put in another commissioner. But you shouldn't be just waiting around with 2 and 2, because many votes will go 2-2 and go nowhere. So, for the good of the country, we need 5 FCC commissioners. And so, my recommendation is wipe them all clean, get 5 new ones. That'd be good.
For what you wish for.
Yeah, none of them could have worked or known anybody in the wireless industry. So I would pick Kent Chamberlain and Mark Kulak and Michael Levesque and maybe Paul G. And maybe, no, we got to get a woman in there. I'm sorry about that. I should have named a couple women.
You're working with one. Well, I don't know how closely with the Children's Defense Fund, I think.
Yeah. So what's going on there is that they actually did file their brief in the OTARD case. That's the over-the-air reception device case. Mm-hmm. And so Scott McCullough is one of the top telecom attorneys in the country. And he basically knocked it out of the park and put a great brief in on September 15. And then he is now completing the appendix, which is going to be, again, hundreds of pages. I mean, Daphne Tackover recently left the Children's Health Defense. But when she was working with Scott on the previous case, she's the one that shepherded 11,000 pages of evidence. We got to thank Daphne for that alone.
11,000.
11. Hey, when the FCC walks away from 11,000 pages of evidence and doesn't even think about reading it, well, you're right. You didn't do your homework. So
regarding the commissioner openings, if we did get to a point full 5, Mobster did say William Barr need not apply.
Yeah, William Barr need not apply. He's a former Verizon employee himself. You know this, right?
He was their what do you call it? The EVP of legal.
Yep. He can't do it.
Which is almost like saying the real leader of the company, especially with a company like Verizon.
You got it. All right. Well, I think everybody's caught up, and I'm sorry that we had some of the technical difficulties tonight, but I will do the best I can to get you a video, and we'll go from there.
Yes. No. I'm sorry, Paul. You worked real hard. You lined up two great guests for us, and it just didn't work. I just couldn't get the video to go.
That's okay. These are things that happen once in a while. No big deal. Guess what? You do. You just keep going forward. That's what you did. Good job.
All right. Thank you, buddy. Right. Oh, by the way, Scott McCullough was a guest on here. Correct.
He was?
What, didn't we have him?
No, we were planning to try to get him, but we haven't gotten him yet.
Oh, okay. I think I'm thinking of another attorney.
You're thinking of Andrew Campanelli.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Andrew's one of the first guests that we brought on.
Yes.
And he's still doing a great job for all the local people around the country that need help. He's the one that can knock them out tower by tower, community by community, if you get to him early enough. And he does take on most cases, depending on volume and whether you get to him early enough. So always look him up, Campanelli, Campanelli. Just he's on the web there. There's only one Campanelli that'll come up with cell towers. Yeah. McCullough is a different guy. He actually is an Administrative Procedures Act attorney, and he basically has been kicking the FCC's butt for about 30 years. And so he's been doing a great job. And so at the end of the day, he's like a gunslinger from Dripping Springs, Texas. He throws skunks in the jury box and he gets it done. He's got that deep baritone. He's a good guy.
A lot of people saying great work, Paul. I totally concur. Thank you so much, man.
All right. Well, let's pray for California. Let's hope the governor listens, and go ahead and take that video that's on that page, wirecalifornia.org/Newsom, and let it go viral. Send it to a lot of people.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Have a good night.
Luck.
I'll send you the video. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too, buddy. And thank you to the audience. Sorry, we didn't get to have the video tonight. I have no idea what happened. The Switcher Studio just did not want to pick up the shared screen. Anyways, it is what it is. We move forward. Lots of fun to talk to these guys, and we will have more in this series. I absolutely promise you. Take care, everyone. Love you very much. And remember, stay cool. Don't let the fear break you. You just be cool, be calm, take care of your health, take care of your family. You are so much more capable and so much more beautiful than you can ever imagine. Just please keep your cool. I think we all just need to keep reminding ourselves and each other of that over and over again these days. Don't let them break you. All right. Take care, everyone.
Good night. Bye-bye.